live. Right on time, too. All right, I think we are live. Hopefully, everyone can hear us. Because if this has problems again, we're just going to record the podcast and say screw the live thing. If anybody's actually in the chat, if we could get yays or nays on the audio. So Tyler, you'll probably have to say some words.
Well, here's me talking. I can say I did unmute the stream for a second, and you sound just fine, good sir.
Excellent. If we had problems with audio again, I would just shoot my computer. Screw this. I'm going to Windows.
It's like a horse with a broken leg. You just walk it out back in the field, take a 50 cal, just take care of the problem.
Okay, so as much as we were bitching about Pipewire, there's plenty to bitch about when it comes to Pipewire. My particular problem was not Pipewire. My particular problem was the Flatpak version of OBS. And what exactly it was doing, I don't know. Like, I don't get it. But switching to the regular plain vanilla Arch repo version fixed the problem. So
very odd.
Now the Pipewire thing is, now if I open up Pulse Mixer here, it's still showing weird inputs. Like it's still showing my DAC as an input. I don't know what's going on with there. I have a feeling that's just because the way Arco's using Pipewire on top of Pulse. So it's doing some weird shit. But I did end up having to reinstall Pipewire, because did you know that MPD has Pipewire as a hard dependency? Like, you can't install MPD without Pipewire, at least on Arch anymore.
I don't know that because I don't use MPD. What is MPD? Is that a music player? It's
a music player daemon. It runs in the background. You can use it to stream to different front ends.
Well, CMOS would solve all those problems.
I can't stand CMOS.
Oh, why?
I just don't like it. I don't like I know you can theme it and shit, but it's just always seemed like too much work when I've already put all the work into MPD and NCMPC PPP.
Well, see, the problem with that is that is the sunk cost fallacy right there. You spent time on MPD, so you don't want to move away. Like, there are plenty of people that are really deep into scams that use that same mentality. Like, well, I mean, I know they're not doing anything with the project and it's practically dead, but I've already spent $800. So if I put another $100 in, at the very least, I mean, hopefully something will happen. It's like, no, just go spend that $100 somewhere else. Just spend your time on the nice stuff like CMOS. It's just easy. Or what's the other one? Like the really ridiculous one with the crazy name. I think you said it earlier. Like
NCMPCPP?
Yeah, like all that shit.
Yeah, I already have that set up, dude. I use it. That's what I use. It's a front end for MPD.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can't use it without MPD.
Oh, did not know that.
At least as far as I know.
Show how much I use it. I've just heard about it. I've heard people say good things about it.
It is. It's good. And it's easy to set up once you have MPD set up. And honestly, I had a hell of a time getting MPD set up because you have to worry about ports and all that shit. So you got to really read the instructions, which I'm not good at doing. So it took me a while, but eventually I got it set up. Now I just always copy the same config over and it's done. I don't have to worry about anything. So
I actually do need to do some more setting up with CMOS. I also need to download like my music library again.
You need to download because why do you need to download? Why wouldn't you already have your music library download? Oh, you mean like
it's in the cloud backed up. So, well, oh no. Oops. I just remembered it's not. Oh no. Yeah. Man, I'm going to have to get all of that legally acquired music again. Darn.
I have like probably 40 copies of my music library because every time I do an rsync backup, it copies over the whole damn file again. I really need to write a script where I'll ignore that, but I've just been too lazy.
I just imagine like you've got 100, like when people look at your like music files on your computer and you're like, You're like, oh my gosh, this man has a massive collection. And they go through it, it's just like 10 times duplicates. Like, what's
Well, I mean,
shit?
they're in different backup. Like all my backups are done by year and month, so they're in in their different places like that. But it is about 50 gigabytes worth of stuff. It's not organized worth a damn.
Oh shit. Yeah, I'm not that aggressive with my backups yet.
I used to do one every night at midnight and then just deleted the like Delta backups, but I haven't been doing that lately because I've been hopping too damn much. Like I've hopped like 4 or 5 times in the last couple months. Not nearly as much as you hopping, obviously, but nobody.
Now that I've got new information about OpenBSD, I might not be hopping too much.
I will make bets again that sometime within the next couple weeks you will switch away from OpenBSD.
I mean, there's always the shit. Now, I do have to go ahead and preface that with I am going to be installing OpenBSD on my other SSD. Like this 1 terabyte will keep Windows on it, just because it's the bigger drive and I've got games downloaded to it instead of because I've got my like 14 terabyte just unplugged now because it's a backup drive. And yeah, I mean, it's a 14 terabyte drive, so it makes like hella noise when it's on. Like,
I know mine does the exact same thing, and it scares the living daylights out of me. Like you hear that thing grinding like there's stones and they're moving across from each other. Like, oh my god, it's gonna fail, and I'm gonna lose all my data, and I'm gonna die.
It's so bad. Like shit.
And the thing is, I thought that it was just Western Digital, so I bought a Seagate drive. The Seagate drive does the exact same thing. It's really weird. And it's stupid because like the 2 terabyte ones I have in my computer don't make that sound. Like they just make the regular hard drive sounds, but that 14 terabyte one sounds like it's like a bulldozer going across, concrete.
It's genuinely scary.
Yeah.
So I've got that bitch unplugged, but I'm going to install it on a separate NVMe drive. So just in case you see me on Windows again in the future, it's not because I've hopped. It's just because I switched out the drive to play games. That's it.
Okay.
And
sure.
Also, the cool part is I've been getting like really addicted to OpenRA, and OpenRA works. Like that's like Red Alert, Dune 2000, and Tiberian Dawn or whatever. But that, oh my god, I've been getting addicted to that, and that of course works on OpenBSD just fine.
Ram, I'll answer your question once we start recording. We're gonna talk about it.
Ooh.
That's Robert. He's the one that paid me money to install. I have thoughts, and there will be a video next Monday about my overall experience. So don't worry, I have things to say.
A comprehensive video. I like it.
It's gonna be a video. Now, whether or not that video will be from Gentoo, still don't know yet. We'll see how that goes. As of right now, it would be impossible for me to record a video from Gentoo.
Oh, and apparently someone asked. No, I'm not vaping THC.
LSD.
Oh, dude. Okay. I shouldn't have had that reaction because now there's definitely like 5 people who are convinced that I'm smoking LSD right now, which is nuts. But TFL, I got him interested in LSD, not the drug, the LS Deluxe. Because I don't know, we were talking in chat. I think somebody was talking about EXA or whatever, and TFL started asking about LSD. If anybody in here does not know about LSD, it is the best program. Like if you think LSing in directories is a little boring, get LSD. It's so good. So good.
I use EXA.
EXA is good, but I prefer LSD.
It's
pretty nice.
Written in Rust, so of course it's good.
Precisely.
I mean, if it's written in Rust, it has to be good. You could write a DD destroyer for your computer, and it'd be a good DD destroyer, you know?
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I come in here, I tell CFO, listen. That's good. All right. Yeah.
Now there's going to be comments on his channel about how. So I heard that you've been peer pressured into using drugs. It's like, no.
Just say no, TFL. Just say no.
Oh, good Lord.
That's so good.
Well, are we about ready to get started?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for a couple more minutes. I got a couple more things I'm waiting for my computer to finish.
That's what I really wanted to hear, because I may or may not have Audacity installed here.
You go do that. Of course, next week you won't even be able to use Audacity because it doesn't exist on OpenBSD. It does?
Yeah.
Why didn't you use it that one time you were... I'm assuming because you used the terminal thing to record the last time you were on BSD. I remember that. I don't remember what it's called, like Kitty or... you
mean FFmpeg?
You used something in the terminal.
Oh, AllCat.
I knew it had something to do with a cat. You should be proud of me about that.
Yeah, I did do that one time. I don't think it was the last time, because I'm pretty sure the last time that we recorded the podcast and I was on OpenBSD, I did record it with Audacity. But
okay, so is OBS on BSD?
Yes, it is. But it is very much a work in progress. As I haven't tried it yet, but from everything that I've heard online, it's not really. There's a lot of features that are in even Debian's build of OBS that aren't on OpenBS. All the BS is in there.
You know what would make BSD like a first-class citizen is if they decided to support Flatpak. Like if they could get Flatpaks up and running.
I don't know about Flatpaks, but I do know that there is an ongoing development like hustle around getting Fuse working properly on OpenBSD. That way, as long as Fuse works, any app image will work. So if that happens, then a lot of software just immediately gets ported over.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking. Like Flatpak could have a whole library there. I mean,
and I think that's why they're targeting Fuse right now in app images, is only just because there's a very, very big lack of manpower behind the OpenBSD project. And that's not to say that like there's not manpower behind it. There definitely is, and the people who are into it are hyper dedicated. But there's not nearly as many people to bolster the work. So they kind of have to pick and choose the complexity of the stuff they port over. And as far as I know, Flatpak is a much more complex thing to get working, because you have to port over many different pieces of Flatpak to get them to work. And then you can run them. With app images, it's literally only Fuse. So as long as you can get Fuse working, then app images will work.
All right. So do you have Audacity installed now?
I do. It is up and ready.
And you know it works. You did a test?
That's probably something. That's a good recommendation. All right, so this is me testing Audacity. And if I'd hit the right button. Yep, it works.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to go ahead then and hit record in Audacity. I'm going to hit record in OBS. And you can do the claps whenever you do feel like it.
All right.
He's apparently not ready yet. I'm just here ready for the claps. I'm like jazz hands.
You said when I was ready. Now I'm ready.
That's true. No, I'm not ready. Okay, go ahead.
3, 2, 1.
I don't even know if that was even close. Was that even close?
To me, it sounded close.
All right, close enough. All right. Cool. So, thanks everybody who's joined us live. We do record this live every Thursday around this time. We became very close not to recording this week because I just did not feel like doing this, quite honestly. There was several times that I almost messaged Tyler and said, yeah, I don't want to do this, so let's take a week off. And I came back around 2 o'clock. And I told myself, if Tyler hasn't added anything to the show notes, I'm just gonna cancel because I was like, maybe he's forgotten. So then I get here, I do a get pull, and damn it, he had it stuck to the show notes. So here we go, we're doing it. All right, so we should happy. All right, anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I have the show notes here, and I can actually move this too, so we can actually. Oops, that's not the right one. There we go. Too many workspaces. Not actually.
But Matt, that can never be a
not
problem.
Actually, too many workspaces. Just a lot of workspace. It's a lot of workspaces.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like it's a problem.
JDawg sent. The guy, I can't say his name. He sent me a link to something for i3 that allows you to group workspaces together, like tab groups for the browser, but for workspaces in i3. I haven't gotten into actually looked into it yet, but it sounds like it's right up my alley. Can you imagine? I have like 100 workspaces that are just all grouped by category. That'd be fantastic. I'm gonna need more RAM.
My man.
Like 64 gigabytes not gonna be enough if I have that. If that comes to pass, that'd be awesome.
Well, let me just go ahead and say, like, it's not a sin to just close applications. Like,
I close applications. I close applications all the time. I just happen to have things that have to
closing one application and opening up 7 others is not really closing.
All right. On this monitor, I have 7 workspaces going on right now. The things that are on there are things that I need open. I don't want to. I don't need them. I don't need them.
Porn open. You need open right now.
I don't have any porn open on this workspace.
Important distinction.
Well, it's just true. I have the show notes and I have the browser. I only have one instance of Firefox open today too. Normally I have more than one. Okay, let's go get started before this goes any more further off the RAM, off the rails, whatever. Words are gonna be hard today.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey everybody, welcome back to Linux Cast. I'm your host Matt.
And I'm Tyler.
All right, so this is the Linux Cast. We talk about Linuxy things. And last week we did not do a normal episode. We sat and we bitched about things for 2 hours. And that was a fun episode. That was really good. It also is one of our highest viewed podcasts recently. Not like ever, but recently. It was really good. But this week, we're not going to do that. I'm sure there will be some bitching and moaning going around, but we're going to be more hyper-focused this week. Supposedly. We'll see how that goes. So Tyler,
that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, my friend, what have you been doing on Linux this week? You Windows user?
Yeah. So I started out the week using Gentoo. Trying to, so I got Gentoo installed, no problem. It was the first time I did a Btrfs install of Gentoo, but went fine. The install went great. Installed all of my applications live, which ended up because we installed OBS and Hayden Live and all that type of shit. It took like 7 hours or something. It was like a 7 to 8 hour live stream of me installing Gentoo because I did all of the program installing everything on stream. And I ended up with a system that worked, but Xorg didn't. And I have debugged Xorg plenty of times. Like, I mean, the log file's not really hard to keep up with, but on Gentoo, I could not for the life of me figure out why Xorg was having this issue. It would start up and DWM would, all the stuff would load up and launch fine. But wherever a program was on my screen, it would take like a picture of it and keep it there. So like if I had a browser, like let's say I load into DWM, the first program I open is Firefox. It's going to be there on my screen, look totally normal. When I open a terminal, because I have transparency and all the nice effects with my PyCom, I can see the terminal come up, but I can still see an image of the browser now behind it. And then if I quickly close both of them, like before the animations or anything happens, I'll end up with the terminal here and Firefox here, like a picture of them, even though they're completely closed and everything. It was extremely weird, and I could not figure out what in the hell was going on. And after like an hour of trying to deal with the problem, I was just like, you know what? I'm getting a little upsetty spaghetti. Let's not get agitated as shit. Let's just do something that's going to be fun. So in like 10 minutes, I just switched out everything and installed Windows.
Okay,
And
so I'm going to solve your Gentoo problem right here, right now. I would, I mean, I can't guarantee it, obviously, but you did answer me this question. Did you have PyCom installed?
Yes. I
would almost guarantee that it was a PyCom problem, not Xorg.
That sounds good, except for PyCom was not the issue. Or if it was, it doesn't make any sense.
The reason why I say it was PyCom is because I'm having the exact same issue with, well, not the exact, similar issues with PyCom or with i3. And that's the reason why I'm not using Gentoo right now, is because after I installed PyCom, the Windows did weird things. Like when I open up a terminal, instead of having the terminal, I have like just a border. And then if I open up another terminal, I actually get the terminal, but no border, but it's frozen. It's just a picture. Like you can't do anything with it. You can't switch it back and forth. So it's really weird. So I'm almost positive that it's a PyCom issue. Or at least for me. I don't know about you. I
mean, that's like, to be honest, that sounds really good. But the weird part is like a week before this, I was running the same build. Like nothing's changed about my build of PyCom. Nothing. And I was using the same build on Gentoo last week, and it was working perfectly fine. And this is the same build that I not really ported over, but kind of did. I mean, if you go on my GitLab, I have a ported version of Jonah Berg's PyCom in my repositories, and I ported over to OpenBSD. Works fine on OpenBSD too. There's almost, I mean, that sounds very plausible, but there should be no reason for it to happen because nothing's changed.
Pretty much like the entire chat is agreeing with me. It's PyCom. It's because without a wallpaper, apparently it does that. I've never experienced the without the wallpaper thing because I've had PyCom running without wallpapers before, but it's also possible. I don't know. You can't test it now because you blew it away. So
yeah, and I will say that's also could definitely be it, because when I first started up X with PyCom, I didn't have a wallpaper, but I did set a wallpaper after this, and it still continued to happen. So
the reason why I always thought reason why I thought it was PyCom is because you said you were looking in the Xorg log and it didn't have like any errors, right? It was just said nothing.
Nothing.
That almost, when Xorg shits the bed, it tells you it shits the bed.
That's why I was getting so pissed off. Right. I'm like, Xorg does such a good job. Come on.
So when you're having problems and it says no errors, that usually means that it's not Xorg that's having the problem. I would put some money, not a significant amount of money, but I'd put some money on it being PyCom because it's Linux, because it could be something different. But I'm pretty sure that it's that problem would end up being PyCom, and I'm pretty sure that's where my problem lies too, is because that what I did. So let's go ahead and move on mine. So I also installed Gentoo. Okay, the install was successful, and it took around 4 hours, but it didn't really take 4 hours because we spent a good portion of that first hour and some minutes trying to figure out how to get the stream going on YouTube. Total noobs. Okay. But by the time we got going, it's probably about a 3-hour install. And at the end of it, I was able to log into a TTY. I believe we even installed Xorg at that point, and i3 at that point. But I didn't actually log into anything that night. So the next day I come in and I try to log in or start X into i3 because I've created an X and RC, and Xorg would not launch. But that's because the people who were helping me, Zany, forgot to tell me how to put it in like elog and D or whatever it's called. So I had to do that. Ben helped me with that, and I
did send you that message.
Yeah.
So
I got anyways, we did get into i3, was working fine, everything was good, but the hard drives, you know, I even went through and installed a whole bunch of programs on my own. Some of them were even masked, and I remembered how to unmask stuff, which is, everybody should be very proud of me.
I am.
And then I install Nemo because I've been told not to install Crusader. But did you know that Nemo has like 63 dependencies or whatever it was? It took forever to install Nemo, like half an hour. Like I should have just installed Crusader and I would have been just as happy, you know. but anyway, especially since how eventually I was going to have to install half that KD stuff anyways, because I'm going to have Kden Live anyway. So I should have just done Crusader, but whatever. So open up Nemo once it's done compiling, and it sees none of my hard drives except for the one that Gentoo's installed on. It doesn't see my NVMe, which has Arco on it. It doesn't see any of the... I have 3 other hard drives that are in the computer. It doesn't see any of those. It doesn't see the 14 terabyte external hard drive. It doesn't see any of them. And I don't know, I had the same problem with Void, so I'm assuming that it's just me doing something wrong. Now, I understand that some of these they wouldn't see because it has they're formatted NTFS, right? But so I knew I had to install something from there, but even in just installing NTFS 3G didn't fix the problem. So I got on the horn with Ben.
Did you see them with LSBLK?
Yeah, they would showed up with LSBLK, but they would not install. So we ended up having to. We had to the final solution was to install. First of all, Ben sent me his use flags. So we put in some use flags into the main.conf file. And then we also installed the U disks and dbus, I think. And then we had to exec i3 with dbus support right out of the bat in order for them to actually work. It was... we worked on it for probably an hour and a half. We finally did get it to work, and I finally can go through and get all my hard drives and stuff. Works really well. So then I pulled down my i3 config, I compiled PyCom, and rebooted, and got back into StartX, did a StartX and back into i3, and it started doing that stupid thing where I launched it like Alacrity. It had no Alacrity, but just the border. So I opened up another Alacrity, and it would open up the Alacrity, but it would be just frozen. It would be nothing there. Even the cursor wasn't blinking, and you couldn't focus it. So either it was just a picture or it was, just frozen. And that's where I've left it. I haven't entered. So there's either one or two things happen. Either the PyCom is not working properly, so I'll have to uninstall it. Well, so that's the first thing I'm going to try. The other thing I'm going to try is just going back to regular stock i3 and see if that will work even with PyCom installed, I suppose. Because it's possible that there's something about my i3 config. As somebody was mentioning that the scratchpad rules in i3 don't work really well in Gentoo for some reason, which doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. But it wouldn't be hard to comment them out and try it. So that's where I am right now. Is that I have a working system with Gentoo on it with a broken thing of i3. Oh, and I also have XFCE because we during trying to get my drives to mount, Ben had me install XFCE so that I could actually get in there and use his exact setup in order to see, because he said it worked for him. Because after he said we went through and used his use flags and did the @world thing, and thinking that would fix it, but to keep me on i3, and that didn't work. So we then decided, because he uses XFCE, so we installed XFCE. I booted back into XFCE, that still didn't work. So it was my thoughts.
It was fun.
No, it wasn't fun. Like, no, it was. Look, and like I said, like I told Ram Jam, I have a video coming up on Monday where I will give my final thoughts on Gentoo. I hope to, at that point, to have actually used it for some period of time, actually successfully, like actually to do things. And if I can get i3 working on it, I will be able to do that. If not, I'll just use XFCE for a while. But the point is that my initial thoughts after 4 or 5 days of using it for a few hours each day is that it is a pain in the ass. Like,
I disagree with that.
It's just one thing after another. Not necessarily goes wrong, but you have to do one thing after another in order to do things that just should be there. You should be able to see your hard drives automatically in a default. That should not be an option for you to have to install on top of everything else. That should just be there. It's like having a steering wheel in a car. It should just be one of those things that just work, and it's not, apparently. Apparently you have to do other things in order to get that to work. So I don't know. Like I said, if I can get this i3 thing to fix so that I can actually use it, I think that I will have a better experience, because I'm at the point now where pretty much everything is working. So like I installed Flatpak, so I can install the Flatpak stuff that I need. I installed several Flatpaks already. I know that's cheating, but I don't care. There's just something like you can't get a 3.0 version of Audacity through Gentoo or any distro. They're all still on 2 something. So I have to use a Flatpak. So I might as well use Flatpaks of something. So I'm going to use the Flatpak of GIMP as well. And
wait, hold on, 3.0, isn't that the version of Audacity that's like the latest?
Yeah.
Wait, why would you want to use the latest version?
Because I switched on Arch a while back to Audacium, which is based on 3.0. So all of my templates and stuff for my thing use the brand new file format. Gotcha. And that means that I have to use the brand new versions of Audacity in order to actually read them, because the old versions don't have ability to read the old file or the new file format, which it sucks. I'd much rather just use Audacium, but you can't get Audacium to work because it's incompatible with FFmpeg 5.0, and they haven't fixed that yet. So, balls. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. I'm going to keep my Gentoo install until Monday. If it's still working, I might continue on and actually do like a long-term review of it. We'll see. But as of right now, not impressed with it. I'm just going to put it that way.
No.
I have learned a lot, though. Like, I've learned quite a bit, but there's also a lot of syntax there that I'm never going to remember. So like after you unmask the whatever you're trying to install, there's that dispatch-comp thing that you have to do. I've had to look it up 5 times. I never remember it. And also, every time you change a use flag, you have to do the something, emerge at world or something with some flags, right? I don't know what those flags mean, but I can't remember those flags. So, yeah, that's gonna end up being a pain in the butt.
You can shorten it a lot by doing AV I believe it's AV, N, and D, like dash AV, and then I believe N and D have to be capitalized, but it's the --ask, --verbose, --new use or changed use, and then --deep, and then at world, which is just the most beautiful update command that you've ever seen. I mean, am I right or am I right?
You're wrong.
Awesome.
you're wrong, because I can't remember it. I would be so happy if there was some place where there was a cheat sheet for that kind of thing. Like everybody's gonna say, well, yeah, just man emerge. Like, well, yeah, that's true, but the man emerge thing is like 5,000 lines long, and that's not a cheat. That's not the way a cheat sheet works. Okay, you want something that you can access quickly and say, hey, oh yeah, that's what I need.
I mean, we all know cheat sheets are about the size of a novel, so you know.
It's just I just need like one sheet with the main commands, the apps they have to know. That'd be fantastic. But as far as I know, that doesn't exist. And granted, I haven't searched that far. I'm sure somewhere online somebody's actually done it. But anyways, that's my experience so far with Gentoo. Somebody wanted to know Ram Jam or Ram Just Ram. Thank you for getting me to that goal there for briefly, and I hope that you found your investment.
He said in chat that it was money well spent so far, and he also asked me if I saw you squirm, and I don't know about squirm, but I will say this much: he only threatened our lives once. No, as far as I know, it was only once. The other time was just an indirect threat. Was like,
okay. For those of you who haven't, the live stream is still up. The live stream of my Gentoo install is still up. The first hour of it is just me messing around with the stream. You won't even hear my voice for the first hour of it because my audio was fucked up on Arco and you couldn't hear me. So you'll just hear Ben and a few people in the Discord talking while I'm messing around trying to get, I had to download Kubuntu. I had to DD Ubuntu. That took like an hour. I did finally put a timestamp in there so people could jump to the Gentoo install. I'm surprised that thing has 2,000 views. Honestly, I'm just saying.
I know. When that stream ended and I saw the view count on it, I was astounded.
Yeah.
Like,
anyways, if you haven't gone through and actually watched it, some of it is pure hilarity because Ben and Tyler were trying to tell me how to do stuff. Josh came in for a while and he was trying to tell me how to do stuff, and they didn't always agree. So I felt like a school marm, and at one point I shouted at you, "Hey, shut up!" I told you all to shout. And there was one time where I told you that I was going to murder everyone by the end of the stream. But honestly, all right, so in terms of the install was not bad. Once they actually got to the point of actually installing stuff, yes, the people who were helping me were annoying. Very helpful, but also annoying as fuck. Once I got to that point, it was fine. The hardest part of the entire stream was trying to figure out the audio problems on Arco. Trying to get the stream actually up and running. If we hadn't had that initial problem, if I just been able to start installing Gentoo right from the beginning, the install process was not bad at all. There wasn't even any point where I had to merge something that took like an hour. You know what I mean? It just even the main emerge, the one that does the beginning of at the beginning of the install, right? That only took 20 minutes probably. Because I know there's only like 13 or something. So, I don't know.
And also, a good thing that I've learned now is never decide that it's a good day to start or to stop like your nicotine habit and do a Gentoo install or help someone with a Gentoo install. Never a good idea, ever. And for anyone who watches the stream, I apologized in the stream to Ben, and I'll do it again here. Ben, I still profusely apologize for the way that I talked to you that night. It was uncalled for.
Very snippy, but it was a good 4-hour stream if you can put up with it. But like I said, there is a timestamp there so you can skip the stream stuff. All right. That was an That was a lot of bitching about Gentoo, but it's okay. I'm sure I'll have more thoughts next week if I'm still there. I don't know whether or not that'll happen. All right, so contact information. You can contact with us. This is going to be one of those times. You can contact us via. I don't even know where. I have the contact information right now. It looks weird. Like there's stuff missing. You can subscribe to. All right, so you can find all of our stuff at the linuxcast.org, subscription buttons, all that stuff, blog posts, all that kind of stuff. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/linuxcast. Tyler's at youtube.com/zanyog. He also has links to his Patreon and stuff on all of his videos, so you can check that out as well. You can subscribe to Linuxcast on YouTube at youtube.com/LinuxCast. You can contact us via all the other ways that we are available to be contacted at the linuxcast.org/contact. Also, someone emailed me. I'm sorry I don't remember your name, but a couple weeks ago I made the comment that I had once owned the linuxcast.com, and then Hover decided that they were going to make that a premium domain, and it was going to cost like $800. Apparently they gave that up, and I was able to get it for $15. So now if you want to go to the linuxcast.com, it will redirect you to the website. So I do own that. So whoever emailed me that, I apologize, I don't remember your name, but thank you so much for that. So Tyler, every single week you and I scour the internet for news, breaking news, like CNN breaking news that you can only get here on the Linuxcast. Tyler, what is your news of the week?
All right, so Ukraine. No, just kidding. Okay, my article is about the Apple M1 and the Linux on it, which is pretty interesting because for it being in such an early alpha state, it's actually surprisingly performant. For again, like if you're unfamiliar with this, like Linux should not be running on this hardware at all. For one, it's Apple, so they clearly don't want you using anything other than Mac. And also, there's a surprising amount of people who are very into getting Linux working on this device, and it's come a long way. The install for Linux on the M1, according to the article, is still it's definitely rough around the edges, and you can run into issues, but for the most part, it's pretty reliable. And there's a lot going on, like development behind the scenes to get a lot of stuff working, including graphics. Because right now, if you're using Linux on the Mac M1, I believe it states towards the end that there is no GPU acceleration on it yet. But that is, as far as I know, there is quite a few individuals working on getting GPU acceleration working on it. So hopefully here before too long, we won't just see the Gallium, I think is what it's called, their Gallium 3D, whatever thing for the chip. But there's talks about after that, they'll need to work on Vulkan and stuff. But so far, the development of this Linux on Mac or M1 specifically, it's going really well.
All right, yeah. I don't really have any interest in running Linux on a Mac because I'm never going to buy that hardware, but I have a high interest in watching the guy who's developing a lot of this stuff. He streams a lot of his development work on YouTube, and he is a wizard at using Kate. Like, so if you think that I'm bad with tabs, you should see this guy. Like, he uses tabs in console, like the KDE the terminal thing. He has like 40 tabs open in the terminal, and like 30 or 40 tabs open in K. It's glorious, man. Like, this is a man after my own heart. It's fantastic. Yeah,
I imagine that, and I get anxiety.
Like, it's like so cool. If you haven't watched any of his development work, he's really good at developing stuff. Like, he was doing something with Rust. Like, I don't know any development work now, so I don't know the lingo, but he had to do something in Rust. He had no clue how to do it, and in like a 6-hour stream, taught himself how to do Rust and created what he needed to do. Like, and he just did it. Like, I want to be that guy when I grow up. Yeah, like, it was so cool. And like, he does a lot of bash scripting and stuff because that's basically how you install this Asahi or whatever it is through a bash script, or a shell script probably. But still, the point is that it just watching that is just really cool. It's kind of like ASMR kind of stuff, you know. Like, I'm not really into that, but it's kind of awesome. But anyways, yeah. I watch, for whatever reason, Tyler, I always watch the Apple announcements of all their hardware stuff, even though I'm not a big Apple guy. Like, it's a holdover from when I was a big Apple guy, and I watched that Mac Studio release thing. Like I looked at that computer, like that computer looks really cool, but first of all, $5,000 for a computer, kind of too expensive for me.
Too expensive? That's pocket change. $5K is nothing.
But also, if I don't have out of the box like straight up freedom to install whatever I want on it, I don't want to buy your machine. Like that's just the way it is. Maybe that's not the way I always was, but I am that way now. You know what I mean? Like I know that this Asahi or whatever Linux is going to be there, but it's not, you know, like really good yet. Like I have confidence that they'll get there. But if I bought that right now, you know, it just say I won the lottery and I wanted a pretty looking computer. I couldn't install Linux on it. Like, I had to like virtualize it. Like I'd rather spend like half that amount of money on a really like awesome computer, like you know, and just install Linux on it. It'd be great. Or buy a System 76 machine for like half the price. You know what I mean? Like we always say how expensive System 76 is, but they're not that expensive.
That's for damn sure.
All right, my news item of the week, if I can get the you know, the thing up, which I probably can't, is something that's a little bit older, because I actually found this link a couple weeks ago. But Canonical has patched the dirty pipe vulnerability in 21.10 and 20.04 LTS. Now, with the way the attention span is in the world, people probably don't even remember what this is, since that was like 2 weeks ago. But a couple of weeks ago, there was a vulnerability that was found in Linux called Dirty Pipe, which is an amazing name. And everyone thought it was the end of the world. Like there was like there was every Linux YouTuber, like outside of me, made a video about this, and it was the news of the minute for about a minute. And then like people probably don't remember it. But the point is that if you even if you don't know what this is, and I'm not technologically advanced enough to explain it to you, but if you don't know what this is, you should still update your computer, and most Linux distributions are have been updated. The reason why I wanted to talk about this was because if you had a really bad flaw on Windows, it would take 3 or 4 weeks for them to patch it a lot of times. And on Linux, where hardly anyone gets paid to do this work, by the way, hardly anyone, this was fixed within like 48 hours. Now, granted, there's still going to be some systems out there that are still vulnerable because they haven't been updated. But the point is that if you use a fairly recent kernel, it's probably fixed now. You know,
or even if you if you just run a command,
yeah,
like it might not even like fully upgrade your kernel to like, you know, a complete new release, but at the very least, like you'll get, as far as I know, there are like point releases for fixing it.
Yeah, and you just don't. This right here is why Linux is awesome, is because Linux is not perfect. It's going to have security flaws, but the fact that when something is found, it's fixed almost immediately is amazing. Now, there are bugs, obviously, that aren't security flaws that can linger for 20 or 30 years. Nope. But when something like this is bad, you know, it gets fixed. Same thing with like that log4j that was like a couple months ago. There was like 3 people that worked on that project completely, and they had it fixed like almost immediately. Now, granted, updating that and getting that patch pushed out to everybody was a much bigger problem, because you know, not something that people pay attention to a lot. But the point is that the fix was there almost immediately. And granted, that's not Linux, but that's still open source stuff, and that's why it's so cool, right? So.
Well, I mean, it's also cool because like we actually don't ever do the thing of, oh no, that's just a new feature. Like, yeah, it might be severely insecure, a big problem for some, but at least we're not the like Microsoft community where we're like, it's a feature.
Yeah, it's not a feature, okay? Like
if you go back, Microsoft's done that a handful of times. Like severe bugs or like vulnerabilities being labeled as features, they've done that before. Like, that's a thing that they've definitely done.
I'm never going to trust a company that has finally decided to put tabs in their file explorer after 30 years and calls it innovation.
That is cutting edge technology.
Linux has had tabs in the file, in every file explorer it's ever had. Like, since almost the beginning. I think Nautilus 1.0 had tabs. I mean, that's probably not true, but it's close. It's been around for a long time. I don't know that there's even a single web or file manager on Linux, even that index one that's based on MauiKit or whatever. I think even that has tabs, and that thing doesn't have half the features of a file manager. It still has tabs. And Windows is just adding it now. And it's not even there yet. They're testing it. Well, what are you gonna test, man? It's tabs in the freaking file manager. It's been around forever. It's easy to do.
It's easy to do, but when the majority of your code base is 30 years old and just getting stacked on top of each other, it could be difficult.
That's probably true. Even Finder on Mac OS has tabs. And it's had tabs for a long while.
Dude, you're just a hater, all right? You don't understand, okay?
No tabs is a feature. Why would you want tabs? Just open up another window and add it to a workspace.
No tabs is a feature.
It's just a feature. All right. Moving on to the main topic, folks. We're moving right along, which is pretty good. All right. So the main topic this week is one that Tyler came up with, and I've rephrased a couple times, so we're probably have no clue what we're talking about. I'm just gonna put that out there. The original one was something like should Linux be like a
DIY?
And the idea you had behind this when you came up with this topic was that was right around the time you were messing around with LFS, right?
Yep.
All right, so I rephrased it as, is Linux from scratch really feasible? And I think I titled the stream, is Linux from scratch a good idea? So we're transitioning into stuff. So Tyler, why don't you tell us what you're thinking about when you came up with this topic, if you can remember?
Yeah. Well, really the mindset of the question is, should Linux really be something that is requires you to do it yourself, to add functionality, or to just be a really functional OS? Do we really want a more do-it-yourself attitude in Linux? Because I don't know about you, but I see it oftentimes online where someone's having an issue with something, and the solution to the problem is to go and fix it yourself instead of it just doing that. But tabs in a file browser, well, let's just pick a file manager. You were talking about Nautilus earlier. Let's just go with that. Let's just say Nautilus didn't have tabs, but you could add in the functionality. With a lot of those kinds of programs where you can add in functionality that for most people, they expect it to be there by default, I hear a lot of people being like, well, you can just add it, and that's what you should do instead of it just being there.
So the ability to see and mount hard drives to your computer right out of the bat. Yeah.
Yeah. Should you, do we really want to have the mindset in Linux that you should, it should be on the end user to set up stuff and get it working essentially properly out of the gate? I personally don't think this is a good attitude to have, but I really want to open it up and see, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my stance on this is completely unfounded, and that's actually what the community wants, is something that you need to configure, you need to take care of.
I think that there has to be a middle ground. Okay, so we have two extremes. We have the LFS and Gentoo approach, whereas literally do everything yourself. And if you have a problem, you fix it literally. And then we have the opposite approach of Elementary OS and GNOME, where you everything is done for you. It's a closed system that you use, and you use it how the developers exactly want you to use it, and there's no customization, there's no adding features, there's nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two extremes, and then you have a middle ground, and I call that middle ground Archlinux. Let's just put that out there. We just call the middle ground Archlinux. But I mean, it's not even just Archlinux, but it's literally any other distribution where you can install. Like, they have different flavors, like Manjaro or even Ubuntu or Kubuntu or Linux Mint or something like that, where you have options to do things, right? That's where the middle ground kind of lies. Like, if you let's just use my
actually, hold on. I don't mean to cut, or I do mean to cut you off, but I also apologize, because I don't want to forget it. You were talking about Elementary OS, and this is a good example. Elementary OS is an operating system clearly made for new users and designed for new users in mind. With that being said, we complained about this and talked about this back when we were trying out Elementary OS, and with Elementary OS, when they switched over to Flatpak, again, I haven't used Elementary OS in a while, so I don't know how this has changed, if it's changed at all. But their software center is using FlatHub/Flatpaks, and for you to occupy or fill the software center with stuff, you had to actually go to FlatHub and add essentially FlatHub to your software repository and download something, and then it would populate.
Yeah. It's the same thing with Fedora, okay? And the reason why that happens, and I've been told this, and it's a stupid reason, it's because FlatHub comes with proprietary software. Okay, so you can...
Well, even if that's the case, a lot of the... Like, I heard this argument quite a bit of where you as an end user... that's just on you. Like, you should just, like, there's not a problem with that. So you just need to know that.
The attitude is completely, like, opposite of what Elementary OS is supposed to be about, right? And that's the reason why we complained about it, is because it was so out of the ordinary. Everything else is done for you in Elementary OS. The fact that you had to go and enable this functionality in order to get Firefox, it was really weird. And I don't know if they fixed it or not, but there should have been a button. Like, it should have been, say, hey, by default, we don't have this software, or by default, our software limit is to just free software, or whatever it is. Like, obviously, professionally buffed up into frilly text. But there should have been, like, a pop-up when you first open up the App Center, a button that says, hey, would you like to add FlatHub support? Yes or no? And then tell you the consequences of doing either or, right? That's the way Elementary OS should be. And maybe they fixed that, maybe they haven't. But the point is that the idea there is still the same, is that everything is done for you, right? And you, or at least theoretically, it's done for you. And I don't remember where I was going earlier, but the point is that give me a second, I'll come back. Old person, Alzheimer's, just a second.
Well, I cut you off too. So.
Yeah, this is definitely your fault. Yeah, I have no clue what I was talking about, or where I was going, what my point was.
Damn. I'm a disaster.
I remember. All right, because we're talking about Linux Mint. So let's just take Linux Mint for an example. Linux Mint is kind of the perfect example of being kind of a middle ground between those two extremes, because you download the main Linux Mint ISO. It comes with Cinnamon on there. By default, it just works. It does everything for you. You know, you can mount hard drives, you can do all this stuff. All the stuff that you'd expect a computer to do, it does perfectly fine. Now, I have obviously other problems with Linux Mint, but we'll just put those to the side. But if you want to, in Linux Mint, it's very easy to change a theme. It's very easy to add extensions to Cinnamon if you want, because Cinnamon has built-in GNOME extension support. Very easy to get to, just with a couple wet right clicks. It just works, right? So it panders itself to new users and does a really good job of doing so with application support and the ability to just use your computer, which is what most new users want. But it also allows you to have the ability, once you get past the point of being a new user, to extend broaden your horizons and do customizations onto your desktop environment and your computer that is not so easy at one end of the extreme, elementary OS, and is absolutely 100% expected of you when you do something like Gentoo or Linux from scratch. So that's where the middle ground lies, is things like Linux Mint, things like Ubuntu, things like Manjaro, and all the other distros that are kind of like that thing. And I joked about Archlinux, but even Archlinux is a little bit too close. It's a little bit more closer to the Gentoo and LFS thing than it is probably that middle ground, because you still have to be able to, install it, right? But even then, once you've installed it, it's still
you
not
know how to build up your system.
Yeah,
from there.
There's a ton of stuff. Now, it's not as hard as Gentoo. Like, it's not. There's so many quirks about Gentoo that you're not gonna know. Like, but with Arch and stuff, most of the stuff that you have to do is at least somewhat similar to what you'd have to do on other. Like, the package manager on Arch, Pacman, at least is somewhat intuitive. With Gentoo, you have to know about use flags and all this stuff. That's not something that you're ever going to have to really do on Arch, right? So there's an added level of complexity when you talk about something like Gentoo. And then if you go even beyond that into Linux from scratch, everything, like every single little piece of this operating system, has to be something that you have touched and put in place. It's like building a 6,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, right? If you miss one piece, like if you've lost one piece on the floor and the dog is down there munching on it, your system is not going to work. Buddy, stop that. Stop. Give me the puzzle piece. Damn it, buddy. What are you doing?
Well, I don't got my headphones in, because he definitely would have responded to that.
Buddy was like, I'm not doing anything, man. I'm just sitting here.
Like, I'm just trying to take a nap. What's going on?
Just leave me alone. I was just chewing on Tyler's computer. These cords look important. All right, so yeah, I don't know.
You said that I had to check my ATX cable, because he's been laying under my bed or under my desk for a while now, and I'm like, I wouldn't put it past him to start nibbling on a 12-volt cord.
Oh, buddy, you do stuff, right? All right, so let me ask you this question. Let's talk about LFS specifically for a little while. Would you ever think about doing that again?
No, I had to think about it for a minute, but I learned enough from doing it once. I honestly don't know that I would learn that much more valuable, like, information from doing it over again. And because the only reason, I guess, for me to do it over again, because I remember a lot of the install, even though I was sleep deprived for like, the last like 8 hours of the first one. Well, I was actually like, it was like a 30-something hour install. I was the sane when I got sleep.
That first live stream, you were going for a long time. Like, I was there at the beginning. I went to bed, slept for 8 hours, came back. You were still going. Yep. I left again, went to work, got breakfast and started my work and stuff, came back to YouTube as I usually do. He was still going, and I just found it absolutely hilarious. And then he still wasn't done. He did it like 3 days in succession, and that proved to me right there that I would never try. Like, I don't care what I would learn, but there'd be no way that I don't have that kind of patience. Like, that's 3 hours of installing Gentoo the other night. That was my limit. Like, by the end of that, I was done. Like, you guys could probably...
That's what I'm saying when I say, like, people need to understand. You only threatened us once, really. The other one was a vague, like, sort of, like, just kind of threat, but, like, abstract. You weren't really threatening.
It was half-hearted or something.
Yeah. Like, I was expecting by the end of the stream for you to be like, okay, I'm definitely going to kill all of you guys. Tyler, I need your address because I'm going to come over there and shoot you. Like, I was sure you were going to be really upset by the end of it. You weren't. It went well.
It wasn't, like I said, if we hadn't had those stream problems at the beginning, it actually would have been a fairly easy install. Now, it was not as easy as installing Arch Linux. Like so first of all, if you've never installed Gentoo, there's several parts of it that are actually very similar or even exactly the same as the Arch Linux install. There are several parts of it that aren't even anywhere close, right? So so it's not as if it was hard, but there was those extra parts that weren't the same that took a lot of time, or at least more time than what you'd expect. Because if you know what you're doing, you can install vanilla Arch Linux in 20 minutes. Even if you are doing it step by step like you would have had to in the old days without using the Arch install script, you know what I mean? You can install Arch Linux in 20 minutes. And most of that's going to be spent downloading stuff probably. So you're never going to install Gentoo in 20 minutes.
No, but I do know people that do it in just about roughly double that time, and that's nuts. Like installing Gentoo in like 40 to 45 minutes. That's impressive.
They must have like 90,000 cores in their computer. I'm just gonna put that.
No, the one person I know who did it was Party on my Discord, and he's like, I don't know, like 13 or 14. Did it in like 45 minutes. When he told me he was already done, I was like, wait, what? I was like, are you sure you're done? He's like, no, I'm booted into it.
Did he send you proof?
I don't know.
Like, I kind of want to see proof. Like, I kind of want to see proof. Like, I'm not saying that a 14-year-old can't install Gentoo. I'm sure that there's some 14-year-olds are way smarter than I am. More, I'm just saying that I don't believe that it's actually possible for anyone to do it that fast.
Josh has definitely done it that fast.
I would believe an hour and a half. Like, I would believe an hour and a half. I wouldn't believe 40 minutes.
The only reason that's possible nowadays is because the desktop profile for Gentoo comes with Rust, like bin already in it, and it also takes care of a lot of other stuff. Because I mean, like pretty much the most time-consuming part of actually getting the base install done was doing the initial install for the first update, emerging the world set. And like that takes about 20 minutes. So that before, like without Rust bin being included, if you forgot to install Rust bin before you ran that command, it was taking a while.
I would imagine, like anything else though, if you've done it a lot of times, like over and over again, you'd probably get really good at it. Like it'd be something that you don't even have to consult the wiki. It would just go and do it, right? You know, it would be really easy. But even then,
that's the thing too. With Gentoo, you can do Gentoo makes LFS look so unbelievably complex by comparison. Like, I know a lot of people we've been talking about Gentoo and LFS like they're very close and very similar, and they are from like an Ubuntu user's perspective. Like they're completely in the same category. But when you actually have installed Gentoo before and you attempt LFS, I'm not even saying install it, just attempt it, they're leagues apart, because LFS is also not something that Gentoo you could run as a daily driver 100%. You might not like it. It might be too complex. It might just be like how it's been for us and give you issues and try to fight you. But at the end of the day, it's by comparison to LFS, a much, much more usable system for pretty much anybody. LFS is nuts. Like LFS is not for something that you want to use on your computer. It's something to learn. Like that's pretty much it.
But theoretically, it would be possible though to use LFS as a daily driver because once you got the base system and the second half, which is whatever's called Linux after whatever it's called.
Beyond LFS.
Beyond L, yeah, that's what it is, right? Once you've gotten that done, you have like a desktop environment and all that stuff installed. All of you then would have to worry about is then constantly updating the system, right? And installing programs.
See, that's the problem. You don't have a package manager.
Couldn't you install something like I don't know, Nix or something if you wanted to?
Well, on LFS, you can install as far as I know, you could install any package manager you want. However, there's a lot of the package managers that you would choose are going to cause major problems. And also, from what I've heard, even the few package well, actually, Ben is, I'm sure, still in the stream, and Ben could attest, because he's told me that the few package managers that do work pretty well, even the ones that do work still are a pain in the ass a lot of the times, because it's just, you're kind of, whatever the package manager is, it's just like, LFS is just so complex that it gives you an appreciation for the complexity that is the Linux system. Because to most people, like you look at Windows and then you look at Linux and you go, oh, Linux, even if it's new to you and you have a lot that you don't know about the system, by comparison to Windows, like, I mean, the code base is like much smaller, by comparison, much smaller than Windows. I mean, even if you took the Ubuntu's code base and compared it to Windows, it's, I believe, even the ISO for Ubuntu is still like a solid 2 gigs below Windows. And so, like, you can kind of have this perception that Linux is a more simplistic system, and it's not. Like, with how much Linux supports and how much, well, it's really just how much they support and do inside of Linux. It, by nature, has to be a very complex system. And LFS definitely gives you an appreciation for that, because there's no way of denying it with LFS. Like, I mean, when you're using, like, Ubuntu, even Gentoo, like, it's updating packages and installing packages and just dealing with the complexity of just the packages that you use is pretty damn simple. Linux from scratch shows you just how much work would go into managing packages yourself, installing packages. Like, you get an idea for the overall complexity. And part of the LFS install is also learning about an init system that you will, if you actually read the LFS install book, you'll come away knowing way too much about your init system. Like, I've never in the world thought I'd learn as much about an init system than I did through LFS, and I don't think I need to. That to answer the question of why I probably won't ever do it again, there's a lot of information that you learn there that's just maybe practical for some people, but definitely not practical for me. Like, I don't need to know how sysv init works in and out. I just don't. I know how, I need to know how to use it, but beyond that, I could care less. Well,
did they choose sysv init because it's the simplest system?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I think sysv init, probably the reason for sysv init in LFS is just because it's the
precursor to systemd.
Yeah, like, kind of the granddaddy. Like, the code base has been around for long enough that I'm sure it's just more stable. And I'm not saying other init systems aren't stable, but I'm just saying, like, when you're already doing something as complex and in depth as LFS, the last thing that you want is an init system that just has a weird bug.
Like, can you imagine if it was systemd?
Oh my god.
Like, I love systemd, but I can just imagine having to compile and put together every single little bit of that, because it does everything.
Like, it has shivers, man. That would be terrible.
Like, the reason why I asked that question, because it would have made sense to me if they, like, sysv init makes sense because it's like you said, it's the precursor to systemd. But something like run it or OpenRC seemed to be more simple in terms of stuff. So it kind of surprised me that they haven't went that direction. But because LFS has been around for so long, they probably would never change to it.
Well, and I mean, I think it's also too, like, when you switch over to newer code bases, are much more likely to run into bugs, and that's I would just say that's probably the reason why. I mean, there's probably not like a solid reason for like we don't use run it because of X. We don't use like there's probably not reasons like that. It's probably just this is what we know works, and why switch to something else, even though it might be simpler if there's a potential for running into issues.
When it comes to the init system, it's like the init system is like the system. Like you have to everything. A lot of stuff is so dependent on that. They probably have built it's sysvn is probably so entrenched in everything else that'd be hard to pull it out.
Yeah, and I mean that's probably another thing too, because I highly doubt that there's many packages out there that aren't going to be sysvn compatible because it's just so damn old. So
I'm gonna mispronounce your name, but I think Raheel, or I'm sorry, I'm totally butchered that name. But he said that there is officially support LFS systemd support. I bet you can't install that in 40 minutes. I'm just gonna put that right out there. Okay, so that is it. Anything else to say on this topic, Tyler?
I don't think so.
I'm gonna put this right out there. There is not a monetary goal out there that I could put out there that is high enough for me to ever do LFS. I'm just gonna put that out there. There's like 350.
You're gonna miss a lot of sleep.
Like there's just not a monetary amount that could ever get me to do it. Like there's just not. Like somebody could offer me $1 million and I'd have to think about it. You know what I mean? Like I'd have to think about it, and it'd probably still be no. It'd probably still be no. But anyways, yeah. So that is it for the main topic. Moving on to the thingy of the week. Now, the reason why we call it the thingy of the week, and I say this every week, is because we don't have a better name for it. So this is the thingy of the week. We should have like a chorus in the background singing like a slogan or something. But Tyler, your thingy of the week.
I've probably talked about this one before, but it makes sense to go ahead and talk about it again because it's awesome. Pokemon Dash Color Scripts. If you don't know what this is the best little nifty program in the world, because you can just run this command with, you can give it a random flag and it'll just pull in and give you an ASCII like Pokemon in the terminal, like just a random one, or you can specify which Pokemon you want and add that little command to your bash RC, and then you will get a beautiful little Pokemon in your terminal every time you open up the terminal. Very good.
It is cool, but everyone always says that adding NeoFetch to your bash RC so it comes up every time you launch a terminal is blow, but at least NeoFetch gives you some information. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, information, but that's boring as shit. You don't have a cute-ass Pokemon in your terminal. Come on.
All right, so yeah, I've tried Pokemon Color Scripts. It's good. They're nice, but I haven't played Pokemon in probably longer than you've been alive. I'm just gonna put that out there.
It's been a while since wait, hold on, longer than I've been alive? Are you sure?
The last time I played Pokemon was on the Game Boy Color, which came out in like 1995.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
You genuinely haven't played Pokemon since I was born.
Well, you got to remember the I
was born 2 years after that.
Right. The Game Boy Color was the last handheld console that I've ever owned. Like I haven't owned one. Well, no, that's a complete lie. I had the Vita, never used it. It was so bad. It was just not a good console.
I always wanted one, but my friend who had one told me, he's like, don't buy it.
The hardware was fantastic. The software was just so bad. Sony was going through its every UI interface thing there was bubble. It was like Samsung came in. It was like Samsung. Samsung came into the Sony studio and say, "Hey, let us do your software for us." You know. So it was so bad. But anyways, yeah. So I haven't had a handheld console that I've actually used since the Game Boy Color, And that was obviously the last Nintendo one I used. Now I have had Nintendo consoles since then. I had the original Wii for a while, and that collected dust for a long time because that was not a good console either. I played the GameCube, but I didn't own it. But because once I got the PlayStation 2, I played the crap out of the PlayStation 2, and then I went to the original Xbox, and then the Xbox 360, and that's where I'm still am now, is the Xbox 360. And my Xbox 360 is over there on the floor. It has 4 inches of dust on it. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Damn.
And there's no way it runs. I get no way it runs.
The main concern would be you probably need dust, but then also
it's under shit.
Xbox.
I play. I'm not a gamer anymore, like at all, man. So like not. And when I do play games, it's on PC. Like,
see, that's what I like to hear. TFL is just playing on the console, and I'm like, dude, we could play games together if you play on the computer. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, everybody has their preferred gaming platform.
All right, so my thingy of the week. So I did end up switching back to CyberGuyLinux, and one of the things that I really like about Arco is that they have a couple amazing tools. So one of them is the CyberGuyLinux tweak tool, and this thing does so much stuff. You can install themes for Alacrity, for ZSH. You can install new desktops from this thing, like new desktops and window managers from it. You can control like HBlock for ad block and stuff. It just does a ton of different stuff, and it does way more now than it did, 6 months ago. Like, they're always adding stuff to this tool, and it's amazing. Like, it literally does all the stuff that you could possibly want to when you control like CyberGuyLinux. So you can do, like, the best part about for me is that if I wanted to try a new window manager that CyberGuyLinux supports, I just go there, install it, it's installed, it's done. And it installs all the CyberGuyLinux like configuration tools along with it. Now, if you're like me and have gone, batshit crazy and have installed all of the desktop environments and all of the window managers, and I have done that at one point. I didn't do that this time, but I have done it at one point. They have a tool also called Desktop Trasher, which will actually uninstall window managers and desktop environments. It's not perfect. It doesn't always work. But it's gotten way better, and if you want to install something like, say you install GNOME and you want to uninstall it, you can do so. And anybody who's ever tried to uninstall a desktop environment like KDE Plasma or GNOME, you know that it's a pain in the tuchus. And this tool does that for you. Now, obviously, it only works on Arco. It might work on Archlinux too, but I think the window manager or the desktop environment would have to have been installed with the CyberGuyLinux tweak tool. Don't quote me on that. I know for sure it works on Arco. So those are my two thingies of the week. Honestly, I keep going on about this, but CyberGuyLinux is amazing. It is so good. If they would fix their website, it would be the perfect Linux distribution. Their website is so bad. If they just had a better website, and if they had, like, I don't know, half as many ISOs as they have, yeah. It'd be amazing. But it's not. Once you get installed, you're golden. Like, it's fantastic. But if you can't get to that point because you're confused as fuck on their website, that's a problem. But that's a discussion for another day. So that is it for the Linux Cast. Coming up next week, I don't actually, have a clue what we're talking. We're going to be talking about. I have no clue what we're talking about next week. I have to go through and actually put in a couple topics of my own because I'm a slacker. So, we'll have a topic next week. Just don't know what it's going to be. So before I go, I'd like to take one thing with current patrons. Robert, Syd, Devon, Patrick, Fred, Kramer, Maeglin, Jackson, Tool, Steve A, CyberGuyLinux, Garrick, Samuel, Mitchel, Archsinner, JDawg. Thanks, JDawg, for upping your contribution. Really do appreciate that. It's going to take me a while to remember that JDawg is up in the upper tier now because I've been so used to saying it down to the producer level. So, JDawg, carnondated, Jeremy, Shaun, Odin, Martini, Andy, Ross, Marek, Camp Joshua, JDawg, Crucible, Dark Bandit 6, Primus, and PM. Thanks everybody for watching. We record this live every Thursday around 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So if you'd like to watch us live and mess around in the chat, we truly do appreciate everyone who watches us live. We do pretty much ignore you in the chat, unfortunately, because otherwise we'd be here forever. We have been promising a Q&A for a while. Maybe we can do that next week if we don't come up with a topic that's gonna take forever to record. But anyways, if you want to watch us live, you can do so at youtube.com/linuxcast. Subscribe there. We go live every Thursday around this time. So thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.
Boy. Yes.